Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Good morning, everybody. It is just after 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, February the 20th, 2020, 2020. Did you get that today? 20200220. Never again will we see that in our lifetime. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. Hey, it's McRae Live, episode 20, all Halloween Q&A today. Jason Blum says that Halloween Kills will end satisfyingly, like it's its own thing. Okay, that's good. That's good. Although I still hope there's a little bit of a cliffhanger somewhere in there, because you are, of course, leading into Halloween Ends. So I'm hoping that there's something. I mean, we're all adults here, right? We can have a movie that hopefully feels. Look, for me, when I heard that, it's like, okay, or heard that, I should say, when I read that, because I did read it. Well, I heard it and then I read it. In my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, I mean, that's good, right? It ends satisfyingly. That's what we want. But at the same time, you know, we're but then again, I mean, you know, famous last words, right? I mean, that's, you know, it's the world we live in. I mean, that's the world we live in. And so I can understand why they may want to make it, you know, they want to try and look, I just want a satisfying Halloween movie. I mean, if it ends on a massive cliffhanger, that's okay, because you still have another movie. If it ended on a massive cliffhanger and there was no other movie, that's when it would piss me off, okay? That's when it should piss people off. It shouldn't piss people off if Halloween Kills ends on a note where it's kind of like, oh, gee, you know what's going to happen next? Because there is another chapter. So that's okay. You know, it's okay if it's the first act and the second act and the vast majority of the third act that must feel satisfying. I can walk out of the theater, and as long as I'm like, okay, cool, I can't wait to see what happens next, that's okay. I mean, Halloween Kills really, at the end of the day, shouldn't, I say this with a grain of salt, it shouldn't be allowed to stand on its own too much, because you do have another film that comes after it. I mean, I kind of get what he's trying to say. He's basically saying that, you know, it's not going to feel unsatisfying. Okay, well, that's good, but it should still have that moment where you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Same bat time, same bat channel. I mean, that's kind of what we want here, right? I mean, that's what I want. You know, it's everything else, you know, before that's got to feel satisfying. Anyway, Jason, if you're watching, he's not watching. But if he is, he's not watching. But if you are, if you do, if you tune in, let's see what that fucking McRae's talking about, you son of a bitch. I mean, maybe that's what he does. I don't know. I do get what you're saying. I mean, you know, I can read between the lines. I understand what you're saying. But I'm hoping that there's still a little bit of that. Oh shit, no way, what's gonna happen next? That's important too. So it's really all I got to say on that. I mean, you know, he says it's big. It's big. Okay, good. I'm glad it's big. I'm glad. I'm glad. It could be taken a whole other way, folks. I'm glad that Halloween Kills feels big. And that means I'm sure it does, because there's I was not fortunate enough to see the test screening, but I will say, because I'm up here in Toronto and it would take me a little bit to get down to LA. But that being said, I will say that I can imagine. I mean, just looking at what we know about Halloween Kills, the scale naturally your sequels are usually always more involved than your, I mean, look, I know Halloween 2018 was a sequel to the first movie, but for all intents and purposes, it's essentially part one. So, you know, in this new little sort of, you know, thing, right? So you have Halloween Kills, naturally, you know, it's again, for all intents, it's part two, essentially. So naturally these things are kind of supposed to be a little more involved and bigger. Because if it's not, then you're just doing the same thing over again. And of course, you guys know me. That's a very fine line to walk, because the enigma of the shape and the mystique of Michael must still remain intact. You don't want to reveal too much about him. So naturally, of course, yes, I would expect this to be bigger. I mean, with a title like Halloween Kills, you've heard me say this before, Halloween Kills, yes, there's going to be more blood, guts, and gore. For all you blood, guts, and gore fans out there, you're probably going to get it. For all you I want a high body count fans out there, you're probably going to get it. For faster and more intense George Lucas fans out there, you're probably going to get it. Naturally. That shouldn't come as a surprise. So, yes, I expect higher body count, more blood, more intensity. With a name like Halloween Kills, that's what I expect. A couple of super chats came in here while I was just hanging out with you guys. Big G says, after HN, should they do an anthology film again? By the way, this is an all Halloween Q&A. All Halloween Q&A. Let's Halloween it up. After HN, should they do an anthology film? Well, you guys know me. I mean, I have said before that, and it's not just about willy-nillying a Halloween anthology film. I just think that if you're not look, if you do want to, this is fucking water time right here. It's actually full of vodka. That's what it is. Straight vodka. Okay, so if you are going to end the series, end Halloween as we know it, look, there's only so much you can do with Michael Myers. If you guys want Michael Myers to go on and on and on, that's okay. I mean, that's cool. But just prepare yourself that very soon we're going to find ourselves right back where we started before Halloween 2018, right? Right? I mean, you're not going to get another 9 movies that are fucking fantastic. It's just not going to happen. The novelty's going to wear off. The story's going to wear thin. The weird and sensational is going to creep into the narrative because they have to figure out how to justify keeping this fucking train going. Eventually, that's going to happen. So I would rather have and it's, it's okay for stories to end in my mind. So I would rather have cool, and I can watch it. That's great. But you don't want to reboot it and restart it, with Michael Myers and tell the same story again, just slightly differently with a couple of different actors. Maybe the name of the town is a bit different. I mean, like 5 years later. I mean, it's just, I just think that's nonsense. So I think anthology, for all intents and purposes, is sort of what they're probably leaning towards if they were to continue this thing on without Michael, let's say. But it all depends on how you do it. I mean, there are some interesting avenues and stories that we've talked about here before. So I just think that it should be on the table to explore. Okay, maybe it doesn't end up being the right thing. Maybe it doesn't. But I just think it should be on the table to at least entertain. At least entertain. Super chat also comes in from, am I going to say this right? Rikia Fleming. Am I saying that right? Hopefully I am. GM Dave for Miami. General Manager Dave for Miami. Watching at my dentist appointment. Is that what GM means? General Manager. Oh, good morning, Dave. Of course. Good morning. General Manager. Good morning, of course. Good morning to you, Rikia. Watching at my dentist appointment. Cool. I mean, are you in the chair? And, how's it going today, miss? That's wonderful. Is that what's going on? Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. Let's take some Halloween. Dave for GM of the Miami Dolphins. For some reason, that's what I had in my head. I don't know why. That's what I had in my head. Hey, let's switch cameras here and move over to our regular view. Maybe I'll go back to the other view as well. Who the hell knows? Let's see. Iron Man says, when Sartain met Laurie, he said he read everything on Laurie and Michael. Then he repeated the word, everything. Kind of like he and her knew something they wanted to keep quiet. Could they be related? I don't know. I mean, when you're writing something like that, there is there's two ways to look at that. You could look at that as it's just emphasizing more about Sartain's character than about Laurie's character, right? So when you read something like, I read everything. It could, in the mind of the writer, it could be more to him. So it's just letting you know that this guy knows his shit. Like he's read everything. No. Everything. That's not necessarily meaning, like that thing you don't want to, it doesn't necessarily mean that. I'm looking up here for some reason. I forgot I'm down here now. It doesn't mean that, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that. So it's the kind of thing where it's like, it could just be to emphasize his character. That's what I think is going on. Or it is ambiguous enough that the writers have left himself a loophole in order to be able to see, is there information that they may want to add? And that could be anything. That could be something we don't know. That could be something about Laurie, something about Michael, something about Loomis, right? Maybe something about something that happened in between 1978 and 2018. So, there might be something that the writers have left themselves a little window to be like, hey, because there's 40 years there, we don't know. I've said this, Marion Chambers and Brackett are actually the two most interesting characters returning for me. Tommy's great because that's cool because he's fucking Tommy and it's Tommy, right? Lindsay, that's cool, great. It's little Lindsay. It's great. And of course, Lindsay being Kyle Richards, that's cool. It's cool. It is. It's cool, right? Lonnie Lamb, okay, cool. But Marion could have some information. And again, I mean, you don't want too much information, but Marion could have some information that gives us some insight into more of what went on in that 40 years, right? Which is kind of cool because she would have been Dr. Loomis's nurse, presumably, for years after that. And maybe even knew Sartain a little bit. Brackett as well. Did Brackett go and visit Michael, trying to get answers about his only daughter's death, assuming it's his only child? Did Brackett suffer from any sort of PTSD all those years? Probably. I mean, look, when Jamie Lee Curtis says that we're going to deconstruct the 1978 film, and it's continuing the trauma trend, essentially, the trauma train, as I like to call it, the trauma train, trauma. That's what it is. I mean, we're going to see, we're going to see how those events in 1978 affected these characters. But Marion and Brackett are fascinating to me because they have information. They potentially have information and more personal information over Tommy or Lindsay or Lonnie, because they may have, especially Marion, may have had direct contact with Michael Myers in the years afterwards, before she herself probably retired. So, I mean, it's one of those things that I think that probably is left open for interpretation. But I think in the moment, in that scene, it was for Sartain, I think. Gamer O'Night says the whole franchise has turned into anthology already. All the different timelines with Michael. Yes, if they were connected. Yes, I think that would be true. It's not really well, no, that's not true. I mean, yes, from a certain point of view, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it depends on what the definition is of anthology. So, but you're not wrong. It's a choose your own adventure, as they like to say. And I don't like it when and this is my own personal opinion, of course, but I don't like it when people try to sort of paint that in a positive. Isn't this wonderful? Wonderful. It's fucking incompetence is what it is. We have the Halloween series became a joke because of incompetence, because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And that is why it's like that. Now, you may like a lot of the things they went in, and that's fine. But I mean, it really is pathetic, really, at the end of the day. I mean, no series should have to say, hey, pretend those don't exist. You shouldn't have to do that. If you ever get to a point in your career, in your artistic career, whether you're writing or drawing or doing comic books or painting or making movies or whatever it is, and you got to go, hey, all those other things I did? Pretend they don't exist. It's like, you can't fuck it. Like, the fuck are you doing? Like, I mean, maybe, I fucking hate that shit. I hate it. I hate it with a passion, you know. Super chat comes in from Frank Riker. Thank you, Frank. Says, Dave, we all know about the Halloween movies, but how flooded will the market be with merchandise from each film, like the burnt mask, if there is one? A lot. I mean, look, as Yogurt says in is it Yogurt that says this in Spaceballs? Merchandising. It is. I mean, I don't think the vast majority of the money that they make is from merchandising, say for Halloween, but certainly it's become bigger. And now the agreement with Trick or Treat Studios and the official masks that they're making now and all the other things, yeah, it's growing in that direction. And certainly they get a cut of it. Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of it. You usually see that more with the like the Star Wars and the bigger blockbuster type films. But certainly, are we going to see another Halloween mask or another version of the mask? You bet your ass we will, because it's money. Joe says, hey Dave, I'm wondering how you feel about the flashbacks and blue lighting returning. I feel like too many people try to copy Cundy's style and the flashbacks are just nostalgia. Your thoughts? Well, I talked about this on a video that I uploaded just the other day. And I said, it's very important. I said that, when I talked about the blue lighting in the previous film, and in the videos that I was uploading leading up to the release of Halloween 2018, it's important to preface my thoughts by, again, saying that it's not that I wanted the color grade of the film to be blue, or that I wanted, the entire movie to be drenched in this blue light for no apparent reason. I always saw and again, it's not that Cundy, created this visual style or aesthetic, but it was utilized so well in the original Halloween. And when you contrast it next to, compare it, situate it next to the type of character the boogeyman was, and the pale, white, blank, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, the coldness of that. It's cold. It's empty. It's gone. There's nothing there, right? And utilizing that pale sort of whitish blue moonlight or ambient sort of nighttime light that you often see. Sometimes it's way overly produced in modern day horror films, where you're like, yeah, that's clearly a light source and there shouldn't be one here. But I really appreciated that sort of style. And I think that it's become almost a character in and of itself. Michael lurking in the shadows, the moonlight coming in. I wanted to see more of that. It wasn't, to be fair, when I saw the trailer for the 2018 film, I was a little worried that they were going to use and they kind of did, but the color grade of the picture was very sort of, I didn't want that orangey turquoise color grade that you see a lot. And I was worried that I was worried that we were going to get that. And to my surprise, actually, the more tungsten sort of warmish vibe that they went for some of the outside stuff didn't bother me as much as I thought it was going to, but it certainly wouldn't have been a creative choice that I would have made. I think because of the season, it's Halloween, it's October, you're supposed to be in the Midwest, even though you're actually in Carolina, you're supposed to be in Illinois, and at that time of year, it can be 30 degrees out. You know what I mean? So I think that helps to play into not just the character of Michael, that cold blankness, but the season as well. So I think, seeing that is important. It's Halloween, it's October in the Midwest, for Christ's sakes. And I think that seeing more of a coldish, cool environment, I think just plays into that more. Like they did in Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. You certainly get that type of vibe during the nighttime scenes, and I would have liked to have seen that. But every director has their own visual aesthetic and style and vision, and David Gordon Green thought, no, this is what I want to go with, and he was working very close with the director of photography, and they did what they needed to do. But that's why I think it's not just because it's cool. Not cool as in cold, but cool because it's neat, not because it's neat, but because I think it's very important to actually the character and the season. So, that's cool that that apparently it's returning, but I always reserve my judgment to see how it is utilized, and what they do, and whether it feels organic and not just shoehorned in, in ways that tell you that they are just trying to make up for something or whatever. I mean, listen, David Gordon Green's got to do what he's got to do. If that's his style, then own it. If his style and his look is like it was in the first movie, his movie, that's fine. Then own it. That's you, man. That's you. That's what you want. Don't pander to that. Don't suddenly change your visual aesthetic and style because, some people like me, you're like, oh, that's too bad. You didn't have do what you got to do. So hopefully it doesn't feel it does feel it feels very organic. So I'm glad to hear that, but I always reserve my judgment. Striker87 says, I thought Marion was only his doctor in H2O. I thought Marion was only his doctor in H2O. I thought Marion was only his doctor. Marion Chambers is the nurse from the original Halloween at the beginning. When you watch the original Halloween and Dr. Loomis and that nurse are in the car and they're driving to Smiths Grove Sanitarium to get Michael, and the nurse says, what do we take, or what do we give him when we take him in front of the judge? Thorazine. He'll barely be able to sit up. That's the idea. That woman in the car is Marion. That's the same actress who was in H2O, but that wasn't her first appearance. She was also in Halloween 2 from 1981, but of course that movie doesn't exist anymore. So Marion, yes, Frank Riker says Marion took care of Loomis. Well, that was the story in Halloween H2O, but who knows what it is now, right? I mean, like I said, the last time we saw Marion, remember, Halloween 2 from 1981 does not exist in this new timeline. It does not exist. It never happened. So the last time we saw Brackett was actually in the car in his cruiser, and Dr. Loomis saying, he's here, the car's here, you go around the back, I'll check the front, and Brackett's like, all right, and he drives off. That's the last time we saw him. That, you let him out, that never happened. Now, maybe they can introduce an alternate version of that in this new movie, but that never happened. Everything that happened in Halloween 2 never happened, including Marion saying, Michael Myers, get your ass over here. When she's sitting in the car. Never happened, right? So I'm curious, because it's like, well, presumably, like I said, I mean, okay, so he's captured, he's put back into a sanitarium. I mean, I'm assuming Marion would have still been Dr. Loomis's nurse, right? So it's like, I don't know, right? Or was she even his nurse? She was with him at the beginning of the 1978 movie, but was she his nurse, or was she somebody else's nurse, just taking him there? We don't really find out that she is specifically his nurse, or basically all alluded to and said until Halloween 2, right? So who knows? Maybe, I mean, she's clearly a nurse, but maybe she's just, I don't know. I would imagine they'll stick with her being his nurse. But interesting stuff to speculate, nonetheless. Let me see. Tabitha Short says, we all love Michael Myers and Dave McRae. Oh, well, thank you, Tabitha. I appreciate that. Thank you. She's yelling it. She's yelling it on the rooftop, folks. That's funny. Crystal Lake Counselor 1977 says, Dave, why does it seem in H5 that Rachel has handled her traumatic Myers experience better than Laurie? One can argue that her night was worse than Laurie's. Writing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that just comes down to writing, right? I mean, that's just, a year had gone by and yeah, it would have been a traumatic experience for sure. And certainly it affected Jamie in weird and unusual ways, and Rachel was perfectly fine. Comes down to writing, my man, and perhaps they should have written it a bit more realistic. Or if you want the just general sort of, answer with no basis at all. It's just that, well, she's strong, man. She's just fucking strong, man. That's what it is. There you go. It's just fucking strong. She could take it. She could take it. Let me see. Smiths Grove says, Dave, let's say Jamie Lee Curtis didn't return to the Halloween saga in H18. Where do you think H18 should have gone, and where do you think we would be in the story now? That's a good question. I can't remember whether I know they wanted to do a sequel, and of course, David Gordon Green was really hell-bent on Jamie Lee Curtis returning. Obviously, he reached out to Jake Gyllenhaal, who reached out to Jamie Lee Curtis. If Jamie Lee Curtis had not returned, then they would have had to restructure the story. And I think what probably, what probably would have happened is how I would have written it is I would have written it about. How do you do this? Okay. Putting my writer cap on. Okay. I probably would have written it not that the character of Laurie had died, but that she was estranged from, maybe you write it in a way where the main focus is this Allison person from the beginning. Michael escapes, makes his way back to Haddonfield, but Allison has no idea that she is the granddaughter of Laurie Strode. She might even have a weird, awkward relationship with her own mother, who maybe has kept a secret from her that Laurie is her grandmother. And but Laurie is apparently nowhere to be found. She's not dead, but maybe it's assumed that she's dead. Maybe she's locked up somewhere. We don't know. Just kind of keep that a little ambiguous, because if the film that we are writing takes off and is massively successful, that may be the platform we need to entice Jamie Lee Curtis to come back and reprise her role for the second part. So I think maybe leaving it a little bit open like that might be interesting. And maybe towards the end of the first film, we find out that this character of Allison is a Strode. And not that Michael's going after her. It's just more about that fate again. You know, that connection of Michael comes back to Haddonfield. But again, that's ballpark off the top of my head. I'd have to flesh that out more if I had more time. But I would be thinking along those lines somewhere. Something like that, I think, would be interesting to have a connection. Or what you do is you remove it all together and Michael just comes back to Haddonfield and there is no family tie. Michael's still not the brother, and he wouldn't be in my alternate other one as well. He wouldn't be. But you just remove the lineage of the Strode family completely. And he just comes back to wreak havoc, and the Strode family, people remember the Strode family from the town, but they're all but gone. And Michael comes back to wreak havoc, and you just introduce new characters that you can potentially become emotionally attached to, and you flesh it out that way and, begin to work it. But from my understanding, David Gordon Green had written the script. He sent this. Jamie Lee Curtis didn't say yes until after she had read a bit of the script. So it's like the whole script was written with her character in it and focus. So had she turned that down, you either recast, you get somebody else to play Laurie, which you can do, or it would have to go through a rewrite, is what would have happened. Let me see what we got going on here. Jason Nike, my newest moderator, says, look for Julian Sandago's question. He had a super chat that didn't go through. It showed it didn't go through. I don't see it here. Okay. Always know that if you don't see your super chats pop up in the, and I don't know why this is happening, but, and I doubt it's just on mine. But if you don't see your super chat show up in the actual chat room, let me know, like Jason did, and I will go over, I'll click Windows and go over here to the other window. 1 second here. I got to bring that window up. Let me go to the other window. I thought I had it up and I didn't have it up. All right, 1 second here. And the other window should bring it up. Should show it that it came in. So let's see here. It should. It's not. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. It says, Dave, we talk about Halloween movies. I got Frank's, I got Ricky Fleming, and Big G are the only super chats I've seen come in here. So, Are you talking about a super chat that came in today, or a super chat that came in maybe on last show that I missed? because I don't see any other super chats that have come in today. So there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I have, where are we here? I have, Big G, Ricky Fleming, and Frank are the only ones that are showing up right now. Just at me, and let me know what it was, and I will read it, because it's not showing up. And usually, if it does go through, if it doesn't show up here, it will show up on the other side. So I'm not sure why it didn't show up. If you indeed did, it was Julie Salas says it's okay. It was only $2. Well, but still though, I mean, you paid for it. If there's a question, at me like you just did, and I will answer it for you. But it should go through. I don't see it here. I'm looking back my previous one. That's so strange. I wonder why it's not showing up. I'm going to have to do a Google search after this and figure out what's going on, because that's not right. That is not right. Unless, and I will say this, I don't mean to suggest that you don't have $2 in your account, but I don't know what happens if people don't have the funds and yet they pledge it. I'm not sure. Maybe it doesn't go through and you get an email saying it didn't go. I'm not sure. So here's one that came in here. Podcast 1919 pledges $1.99. I see that one, and let me go over to the other board, and I see it there on the other board as well. And Steve Johnson just sent in one as well, and I see that one. That's on the board, and that is also in the chat room. That's so strange. I'm definitely going to have to check this out. I'm definitely going to have to check it out. So yes, so Julian Salgado added me, and he says, "Why do you think they didn't show the Myers house in H18 or even talk about it?" Well, I think there are. There's two okay. Well, off the top of my head, I think it's because number one is they don't want to have a repeat of Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, where you have a house that looks nothing like it. Now that all comes down to the production designer, the production court. I mean that can be easily avoided. You just don't get a house that looks like that. That's easily avoided, right? Nobody's forcing you to go and get a Gothic mansion from Halloween 5. But to find a house that, I think they wanted to make this film as authentic to the original as possible, that finding a home that looked like it, it's kind of an all or nothing kind of thing. If they couldn't get the original house, forget it. And of course, as we know, the original house is still there. It's moved down the street, and now it's I think it's like a law office or insurance office or something like that. And it's private business now. So they can't really use that. And you can't really use it because of the location. So if they were going to use the Myers house, they would more than likely have to rebuild it. Build the exterior, very much like they did for Halloween Resurrection, and also build the interior as well. And the advantage you have of building an interior for your sets, which they do all the time, is you can build the ceilings higher, you can build the rooms a bit wider to compensate for lights and grids and dolly tracks and camera movement and all that kind of stuff. Unless your home is just happens to be, big and have a lot of space, it's very common that the interiors of the exteriors that you see, it's at least a 50-50, that they're not the same place. Now, they did build at Universal Studios for the promotion of Halloween 2018. They built just kind of like this outside facade, like this outside sort of outside, the exterior outside. I guess it is the exterior front facing sort of the original Myers house, right? And they did some interviews in front of it and a round table between Curtis and Blum and Green and things like that. And that was kind of cool. But that would have been as far as that kind of thing goes, that would have been pretty rudimentary. Like that would have been pretty standard. They built it looked cool. They put a lot of work into it, but there was no interior. There was no, it was just the front. And then if you went around the back, it would just be a shell of itself. So they would have had to have created on a soundstage a fully functioning, working, believable like house, right? At least the front of it, like they did for Halloween Resurrection. And then if they wanted to shoot inside of it, they would have to build the interior. It would have cost more money. It just would have cost more money to do. And I think the story they had written were like, it's not necessary. Our story doesn't take our characters anywhere near the Myers house. Now, I will be surprised and actually a little bit disappointed if the Myers house does not show up in one of these next two movies, either Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends. I will be disappointed in that because I think it is like in my sequel concept idea video, which is on my channel, where I do this 2.5 hour walkthrough of my sequel idea to Halloween 2018. And again, my idea is, here's my idea, and it's a one and done film. I don't leave it open for, another one. But in that movie, I have the Myers house for a very specific, symbolic, layered reason. So I'm not saying that they're going to use the house for the same reasons I did, but I would be surprised if it didn't show up somewhere in the next two movies. That would be a little surprising, but maybe it won't. And if it doesn't, I think it's just because if you can't do it, it's the Myers house. You know what I mean? They have fucked that up one too many times. So, that's why I think it wasn't there, though. The Wolf is Awesome says Laurie will most likely not survive. I think they should both go. Well, just listen to my concept. Podcast 1919 says, Dave, do you think, and thank you for the super chat, buddy. Do you think we get a more radical Michael? A more radical Michael? I mean, like more cool? Like, hey, man, that's rad. That's radical, man. I'm dating myself here, like it's 1989. Hey, it's rad, man. That's rad. That's cool, man. That's cool. That's hot. People still say hot, but I know what you mean. Yes, of course. Like, if you mean by radical, you mean like intense and unhinged and violent. Yes, 100%. I don't need to see the test screenings to have figured that out by the title of the movie. And naturally, by a sequel, you want to open things up. It's going to be bloodier. It's going to be gorier. You're going to get more. And I haven't read anything about the test screenings at all, other than the bullet points. It's Halloween on acid. Okay, well, but we knew that before, right? So it's just a confirmation of that. It's going to be bloodier, gorier, more kills on screen, more kills in this movie, more kills close together in this movie, and it's going to be a much more intense, violent film, I believe. Yeah. Justin Avery says, Dave, you think Danielle Harris will be in Halloween Kills, come back as Jamie, and Laurie tells Karen that Jamie's her sister? Sometimes I feel you guys just want me to talk about this and rant about this stuff. I'm pretty sure I've covered this. No, I don't think she will be back, and no, I don't think she needs to be back. The Cliff Notes version is because it is unnecessary to have. I agree with everybody. She got fucked. All the guys are like, yeah. She wasn't treated fairly. Let's put it that way. She wasn't treated fairly years ago. I agree 100%. But to bring back, I don't want to see Danielle Harris in, this is my opinion, I don't want to see her in any of the two new Halloween films as somebody other than Jamie Lloyd. And I don't want to see her as Jamie Lloyd because it wouldn't be the same Jamie Lloyd from Halloween 4 or 5 or 6, even though she wasn't her in 6, but the character. It wouldn't be the same person because those movies do not exist. Those events never happen. So when you see her walk on screen as Jamie Lloyd, she would have no memory, no recollection of a sister named Rachel, of any of those events that ever happened, ever. It never happened. So it's an alternate, so it's the same character in name only. What's the point? She deserves better than that. She deserves better than that, and she deserves better than a 35-second cameo as a convenience store clerk. I'm not saying that's what they would do, but I'm just saying as some cameo. I don't want to see it. It's unnecessary. If they had made a sequel to, if this 2018 movie had been a sequel to part 4 or something, only, pretending that, H2O and 6 and 5 never happened, maybe there's something there. But now I just think she deserves better than that. And I think it would feel a little too shoehorned in. Steve Johnson sends in a super chat. Thank you, Steve. Says, Dave, do you ever get the sense that Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't love being associated with Halloween till she's looking for a payday? Not being negative, she just often seems dismissive until there's money to be made. Well, I don't think it's that. I think, it maybe. I just think that when you're an actor and when you are, actors are contract players essentially, right? It's no different than what I do in voiceover. I'm an actor, right? Voiceover it's voice acting. It's all part of acting. I'm a contract player and we want to be working. We love working. We love when we get gigs or we get auditions and our agents say, this is what you got to do here. And here's an audition, or here's somebody that, is looking for this. And, we love being a part of the process and feeling like we're one and we're there and we're working. It's all about working. And yes, are there things we want to do more so than others? Sure. Absolutely. Of course. I love doing movie trailers and network promos and national TV ads over doing corporate presentation and training videos. I mean, there's, yes, of course. Right. But actors want to work. And then sometimes, depending on who you are, you get to a certain level in your career where you become identified and most associated with one thing, especially on-camera actors. And early on in the career, that can be, for some, it can be frustrating and annoying because they want to be seen as more than just that guy or more than just that gal, right? Usually what happens later in life as their careers begin to dwindle, the demand begins to go down. They become more appreciative and certainly they become more they just accept the reality that this is what I will be most known for. And you know what? That's okay. And, years ago it was kind of like, oh, fucking, because they're still in the prime of their life and they want to go off and do other things. They're actors. I mean, that's what they are. They want to play different roles and different characters. I don't just want to do national ads for Coke. I want to do other things. I want to do I want to play other characters and other spots and do other stuff, right? Animation and narration and movie trailers and whatever. But as you get older, and I'm still in the prime of my career, but if I was 70 years old, I might be like, you know what? Okay, I'm the Coke guy, let's say, or whatever. I guess that's okay, because you realize that you're at the end of your career and end of your life. However, there are some actors, and I think Jamie Lee Curtis, it's hard to read Jamie Lee Curtis sometimes. It's hard to get sort of a read on her. But I think what it comes down to is not necessarily the association with Halloween. It's more to do with the same questions all the time. Now, their job, well, not it's their job unless they're being paid for it, like unless they're actually on press tours and doing junkets and things like that. And a lot of the talk shows and the press tours, it's built into their contracts. This is because it's part of the marketing for the movie that you will go on Kimmel Live, you will go on Fallon and help promote the movie. It's part of the marketing campaign, essentially. But I think, sometimes you can read between the lines and they're just tired of the same questions, even though they're supposed to be like, oh, yes, and pretend like it's the first time they're being asked. You get the same question all the time. And there's only so many different ways you can answer it with oomph and chutzpah and pizzazz and excitement. It's like, God, how do I answer this same thing 4,000, how do I? So I think you're just seeing just kind of, a woman who's identified with this role will always be most identified with this role, answering the same questions for the 80,000th time. And it's not that I don't think she hates. I mean, look, we also know that she has said that John Carpenter and Halloween gave her a career. It gave her start. I'm sure she's very appreciative of Halloween and the fans. But I think sometimes it can be exhausting, trying to figure out how to answer certain things in new ways and how to remain just as excited, because the fans are like, you see, here's the thing, actors, it's a job. They don't necessarily become emotionally attached to the same roles that you as fans do, right? Fans, 99% of the time, will know a hell of a lot more about the tiny nuances and details and idiosyncrasies of a character or an event or a scene or a movie way more than the actor will, because the actor is doing a job. They're hired, they're paid, they do the job. That doesn't mean they're not enjoying it, and that doesn't mean that they don't really love playing the role, but they're not going home and surfing the web and, watching the trailers and looking at the behind the scenes no, it's a job. They do it, they go home, they forget about it. You know what I mean? And so it's just, sometimes they don't appear as excited as the fans because they're not. And it's no disrespect, just kind of like, I'm just playing, I'm really not that person. I was just pretending to be that person. And, and then they have to kind of pretend they're happy and excited, and sometimes it can look a little disingenuous, you know what I mean? And again, it's by and large. I'm not saying there aren't actors out there that aren't just as excited, right? I mean, Mark Hamill knows a lot about Star Wars, but he also gets, kind of, told a lot too, right? There's a lot of things he doesn't remember. Good question. Good topic too. Good topic. A couple more super chats came in. Frank Riker says, Dave, I have a theory that Lori dies in the hospital and Tommy and Lindsay come to her funeral. That's how they're introduced. You know my feelings on Lori. I don't think she's going to die. I don't think she's going to die like that. It's not a bad theory, though. It's not a bad theory. Not a bad theory. I suspected if that happened, that would have been some sort of variation of that would have been in the bullet points somewhere. So when you hear Halloween on acid, a major character that hasn't been announced, returns, I think that is too juicy. I will be stunned if that actually does happen the way that you said early on in the movie, and that's how those two characters are introduced, and there wasn't some sort of nobody was alluding to that in the bullet points of the test screening. And what I mean by that is not full on, but just something like there's an event that things will be shocking. Lori is something something like that. You know what I mean? That makes you go, what's going to happen? That's weird. I don't think that happens. I think she probably makes it to the end of the movie. And if she's going to die, she dies at the end of the movie or she dies in Halloween Ends. I think she is not going to make it out. I still think that Laurie and Michael should die together as per my Halloween. And I don't just mean die together. You have to listen to my Halloween sequel concept idea video to understand the layers and the symbolism of how I created it. But I think it began with them. I think it should end with them. But that's me. But that's interesting though, Frank. That's interesting. Super chat from Brandon Barry says, Dave, what do you think happens to Halloween franchise after Halloween ends? Well, I don't know. I've said this before. I just think that it's important that whatever they do, they honor. They do their best, and I know it's show business, folks, but I hope they do their best to honor the reason why they stepped into this universe again in the first place. And obviously it's to make money. But when you erase every single sequel that ever happened in the Halloween franchise and do a new movie to the original only, you're doing that because you recognized that the series became a dog shit show. It was a fucking shit show. And the more sequels you do, it is inevitable. You will be back where you are or where you were before you did the 2018 film. Maybe it won't be with Halloween Kills. Maybe it won't be with Halloween Ends. Maybe it won't be with Halloween Begins Again. I don't know, but you will find yourself. If you think they're going to be able to do another 8 sequels to this new timeline, you are, I don't know what you are, but you need to have your head checked because it ain't going to happen. And I mean sequels that are successful and good and you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is like, wow. No, it's not going to happen. It'll be dog shit eventually. So I just think that end it, do justice to the character, do justice to Laurie, honor them, honor the series, honor the legacy in a way that is that is mature and powerful and appropriate, and then take a bit of a hiatus for a year or two and figure out what you want to do. Do you want to reboot the whole thing again, or do you want to step into the world of streaming and explore anthology and whatever, or video games, or I don't know, but to continue this story beyond ends, it's like, Jesus Christ, man, like, let it go. It's important for stories to end. It's okay that stories end. It gives value to the series. It gives value to the characters. It's one of the reasons why I actually was okay if Hopper did die in Stranger Things season 3. I don't want it. Want is completely irrelevant in this case. Of course, I don't want him to die. He's my favorite character, essentially. I mean, I like others too, but I really like Hopper. But I recognize the value in him dying, the value of that scene with 11 reading that, letter at the end of season 3, the value, the emotional weight and impact of all that. If this thing about people, and listen, I'm not saying that bringing him back it's a smart move business-wise. It's, he's back. We all knew he was going to be back anyway. But maybe it will feel organic and earned and everything will be great. It'll be fine. But the one thing I really liked about Han Solo's death, and although he made a return in The Rise of Skywalker, he was just a memory. He wasn't really there. It was Kylo Ren's subconscious. It was Kylo Ren's guilt. It was Kylo Ren's memory. He was imagining his father there, the guilt, the pain, everything that he was feeling at that moment. He knew it's like if you have somebody who passes away, right? Like both my parents have passed away. And there are many times where I think to myself, what would my mom say right now? What would my dad say right now? I can picture my dad saying, "I'm proud of you, son." I can picture my mom saying, "I don't know if if you should do that." We've all had that kind of thing. That's what he wasn't really back. Not that I thought he was actually going to be back, but that's the kind of think of how lame it would have been if he didn't actually die. No, he fell down there, but then they show, a scene with him hitting the ground or getting caught and he actually survived. It's like, no, it ruins the emotional impact and the moral and the message and the ability to learn from what they're trying to say about that in that scene. So, with people, it's okay for things to end. It gives them value. It gives them meaning. It gives them weight, And I think things don't have to end shitty. Like, things don't have to end shitty. They don't have to end underwhelming. They don't have to end, where you go, well, it fucking sucks. No, make a good ending. Now, obviously that's in the eye of the beholder, but honor what's come before and deliver an ending where the probability is high that most fans are going to really appreciate. You can't please everybody. There's always going to be somebody, well, that's fucking stupid. There's always going to be that person. Always. It's just, that's the world we live in right now. That's the internet. Fuck you, my opinion matters. That's the world we live in. I get it. You're not going to please everybody. But you can certainly, if you're smart and you're a smart writer and you understand the mythology and the history and the characters, you can deliver an ending where most people are going to go, okay, yeah, that's good, right? And that's what you do. And then people feel not maybe sad that it's over, but they're happy at the same time because it was such a satisfying conclusion. And that's what it's all about. That's why I've said Halloween Ends should not end on Michael's eyes suddenly opening, or him coming out of a closet. Like, don't do that. End it satisfyingly. You know what I mean? Anyway, I could go on a big fucking rant here, but that's how I feel about that. Is that I don't know what they're going to do after Ends, but I just think that, take your time here. Think if Halloween Ends does actually deliver an ending that you could actually go, it does bookend everything. Take your time. See what the box office is like, because this is about money, and then figure out what you want to do. But if we think that they're going to deliver another 5 movies in this series after Halloween Ends that are just going to be magnetically incredible, I'm open to being proven wrong. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. But I am open to being proven wrong. I will eat my words. Let me see here. D5 Vaughn is awesome. Sends in a super chat. Says, hey Dave, very long time viewer. Hope Kills rocks. I hope too. I hope so too, man. I want Halloween Kills to be amazing. I don't want it to end. Jonathan M says, hey Dave, Marion Chambers is my favorite Halloween character ever. So cool. She's so fun and badass. Do you think she'll survive or die in Halloween Kills? I think she will. That's a good question. I think she'll die. I think she'll die in Halloween Kills. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe she'll come back. I'm going to say there's a 50 right now with how I feel, there's a 50-50 chance that she lives or dies. One of the main characters is going. I would lean more towards Brackett going over Marion. Because it's more personal for Brackett. I would love to see Brackett go out in a blaze of glory, like basically fighting for his daughter. And I'd like to see that. That's what I had in my sequel concept idea video, if you guys remember. So I think there's more of a personal connection. It's more personal for Brackett than it is Marion, as far as we know. I mean, unless they're going to introduce some sort of angle that makes it a little more personal for Marion. But right now, other than being Dr. Loomis's nurse, and she may be able to provide some exposition and context, I mean, we don't know. It's not personal for her necessarily, unless it becomes personal on a more of a symbolic standpoint because she was Dr. Loomis's nurse. So it's not personal in the sense that Myers has murdered anybody she knows or like there's any sort of personal vendetta against, Myers, but it's just more, it's more personal in the sense that she's worked with Loomis and she's been in the environment and therefore it becomes kind of that, a different kind of personal. But with Brackett, it's directly, literally personal because Myers murdered his daughter, and as far as we know, his only child. So I would like to see Brackett go out in a blaze of glory. I think that would be a great way for him to go out, sacrificing himself maybe to save somebody, maybe to save Marion or Tommy or I don't know, somebody. I think that would be cool. That would definitely be cool. All right, let me see here. Make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Super chat comes in. Intel Wild sends in 2 super chats. Oh, wait, no, wait a minute. Wait, we got here. We got a few came in. Chris Hames says, Dave, my man, pots and pans. No question. I'm just supporting the channel. These live shows are killer. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate your support, man. Awesome stuff. Steve Johnson says, I'm paying for the first non-super chat legitimate question below to get read by Dave. Just spreading some love to fellow Halloween fans. Well, thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate your support to the channel, man. You rock. Intel Wild sends in a super chat, says, I put your trick or treat motherfucker on my phone. I love it. That's amazing. He didn't put Busta Rhymes' version on his phone. He put my version on the phone. That's amazing, man. Thank you. That's actually really funny. Intel Wild says, follows up with, so when I get notifications, I always laugh. So when you get a text message, trick or treat, motherfucker. That's amazing. Let's see. Actually, is really funny. I feel flattered by that. Anthony Stanfield says, why not, Dave? Title could be Halloween Ends Again. Oh my God, yeah. I think I made about a year or so ago, I made 3 posters. I shared them on my social media, and it was the original, it was the Halloween 2018 poster, and it said Halloween, and then I think it was Halloween Again, and then like Halloween Again or something. It was just kind of funny. Of course, now we know the actual titles of the movie, but yeah, it could be Halloween Ends Again. There's value in things ending, man. It raises the state. Like, if you know that characters can't die and that these characters, if they do die, unless they're really expendable, they come in, that's one thing I hated about, I mean, again, I understand it. I understand the logistics of why they do it, but it just seems so chintzy to me because it's like, they introduce Sean Astin as Bob in season 2 of Stranger Things, right? I knew the second he was cast, he wasn't making it out. It's not like, oh, he joins there's always that hope. You're like, oh, that's cool. Maybe he'll become a series regular. But as soon as I watched the first few episodes, I was like, yeah, he's not making it out. Like he's there purely to have a different angle for Joyce and add some context. Okay. But he's there to essentially get you, oh, I really like this guy. Such a sweet little guy, Bob. Oh, isn't he nice? And then he gets killed it's like, what is we saw that happening. Who cares? He's Bob. Who cares? They did a good enough job that you really got to like Bob because he was very sweet and kind and, nice. And they made him that way because they didn't have a lot of time to get the audience emotionally attached to him, where when he does die, it delivers the emotional punch and impact that you want, right? Because he's being introduced. They couldn't just have him as sort of just a regular kind of, just ho-hum kind of guy. They needed him a little overly sweet, a little overly kind, to the point where you think, is this guy serious? And he really is. That's just who he's very sweet and kind and caring and, and they needed to make him that way quick. So you go, that sucks. Bob died. I really like Bob, but those are the type of characters at all. Like, it's never the main people, you know what I mean? And I just think it would be cool, to have that. It raises the stakes, and it's okay when movies end. I'm not a Marvel guy, but I think Iron Man should come back. No, and I haven't even seen Infinity War or Endgame. No. Because then nothing means anything. Yeah, but Dave, I like him. Yes, I know. And that's why he should remain dead. That's why it's okay for movies to end. Let me see here. The one, I see that you've, I don't know if you're joking the one or not, but whatever you're doing, the one, the messages have been removed, by Darren. Thank you, Darren, for doing that. Whether what you posted or not, is true or not, but, don't do that. Don't be a dick and do it. And because you did that, you're blocked. Just the way it is. I have no tolerance for it. So don't joke about it. Don't pretend that you have spoilers, or you will be blocked immediately. I just blocked him now. People can personally block people, but I'm the only one that can actually block him. So you on your own can always block trolls, and then you don't see them ever, but everybody else still does. But because it's my channel, I'm the only one that actually can block people completely. But they can always return under new accounts. But usually you can tell who they are. But yeah, don't give spoilers, and don't joke about giving spoilers. I have a no tolerancy policy for that. Absolutely none whatsoever. I don't care if you're somebody that's a regular. If you're gonna do it, if Kenny525, who is fucking awesome, Kenny525 is awesome. We love Kenny525. But if he was dumb enough to be like and joke about something like that, I gotta block Kenny, man. I gotta do it. Now that doesn't mean that I can't unblock somebody, because I can, but I gotta block people. I have a no tolerancy policy for that crap. It's just bullshit. I'm not saying Kenny525 that you're going to do that. I know you're not going to do that, because Kenny525 is better than that. But I'm just using you as an example, is that, everybody's game. Hey, everybody can die, man. Everybody can die. That means the stakes are high. That means nobody's safe. Including myself. I'm going to type a spoiler right now, and I'm going to block myself. All right? I've just blocked myself. Good night, everybody. Okay, I just unblocked myself. There we go. I'm back. Oh, did I miss any super chats? I don't. And Darren, thank you so much, by the way, for tackling that. Darren, one of my moderators here, thank you for tackling that. I did not see it. I did click on one to see what you removed, and if the others were like that, then yeah, by all means, you absolutely did the right thing. So Darren, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Let me see here. Super chat. There were a couple other super chats that came in. Okay, let me see if I can get them. Anthony Sandfield. Well, did talk me Halloween again? I answered that one. Sorry, we're going down here. Austin Payne sends a super chat, says, come to a Sabres game. I'll buy you a $12 beer. Sabres, yeah, I got to get down to see the Sabres again. I haven't been to a Sabres game in a couple years. I'm just waiting for them to get better. Jania Green, am I saying that right? Thank you very much for the super chat. Says, how do you feel about the reddish lighting in H281? Well, the reddish lighting in H281 was really, from what I can remember, you see, it's that's okay because it's all about the light source. Right? It's all about the light source. It's not like Halloween 2 from 1981 was drenched in this color grade of red light, right? It's about where is the light source coming from. It's all about the light source, right? Now you can just fine say, well, the light source is just a bunch of, tungstenly, yellowly, orange streetlights. Okay. All right, cool. There's your justification for it. But the reddish lighting in Halloween 2 from 81 is, from what I can remember, is towards the end of the movie when Laurie is running towards the door. Michael steps out from behind that wall and he's bathed in this red light. But that's because there's a red light somewhere on a wall there. That's not moonlight. It's not like the scene is just red. And then when you get in the hospital, naturally, you're not going to have bluish moonlight in the hospital because of the type of, unless you were by a window where moonlight could come in, then, you might be able to utilize that. But when you're in the hospital, hospitals by nature are going to have more of a tungsten warm feel inside. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have dark crevices and corners and alleys where you might be able to utilize some really interesting low-key, light and shadow, which they might be able to do. There was also, I guess, in the room where Janet gets the syringe in the eye, you also get some reddish light there, but that's because that reddish light, there was a reddish hue that was sort of coming from within the office a bit. And that's okay because the office didn't have any windows as far as I can remember. So you wouldn't bathe that scene, that room with moonlight. If you were going to bathe, you see, there's two ways to do the bluish light hue that we talk about. You either light the space as if the light source is moonlight, and it's more of a pale whitish blue. So you have to be cognitive of where is the moonlight coming from then. Or you can bathe, for all intents and purposes, your scene in an ambient dark sort of bluishy, colder sort of feel. But then you have to be careful of, if we have a light source in the room, what is the color temperature of the light source? Is it daylight balanced or is it tungsten balanced? If you have a lamp on a desk, it's 99% of the time going to be tungsten balanced, and therefore it's going to give off more of a warm sort of hue, and therefore you have to honor that warm hue within a certain part of the space. But then you could move to a corner maybe where it's darker, but it wouldn't make much sense. That corner is, daylight balance. Like it's a very tricky thing. You can't just, the lights, the color grade of your picture and the light sources within your picture have to feel authentic, have to feel genuine. And, so keep that in mind. And as far as I can tell, from what I can remember, I never had any issues with the lighting in Halloween 2 because of the space for where they were. When you are in a house with all the lights off, you can then utilize, which is basically what, like, for example, when Laurie is walking down the hallway towards the bedroom where Annie is lying on the bed, right? We see this warmish yellow glow from the bedroom. Well, that makes sense because I believe the pumpkin was on, right? So the pumpkin is, emanating this warmish, yellowish glow. So you need to honor that within the space within the room. But when Laurie is out in the hall or when she's downstairs where there's no lights on, it's more of a bluish, colder feel because you can justify that by, number one, that ambient kind of darkness, just sort of that ambient kind of feel. And number two, moonlight can be coming in through the windows that are there, casting more of a colder, bluish hue within the room and in the space. But once you get into a space where there is a distinct, obvious light source, you have to honor that. You know what I mean? So I didn't have any issues with that. I just think that, hopefully that answers your question anyway. Yeah, I didn't really have any issues with the lighting that was in Halloween 2. Again, my issues are not to bathe everything in blue. It's just to sort of, when there are opportunities to utilize moonlight or an ambient, colder sort of, feel rather than a warm tungsten. I just think that it's an opportunity that could be really neat, and it honors the character of Myers as well, and the season as well. Hopefully that answered it, but I realized I was a bit long-winded there. Let me see. Super chat also comes in from Steve Johnson. Says, wait until Rob Zombie Halloween ends 2025. Michael dies in a fiery Pontiac Grand Am car crash while chased by Deputy Lex, played by Sherry Moon Zombie. That would be unbelievable. That would be pretty amazing. Let's see here. Johnny T says, hey Dave, one of the Halloween sequels should have been named The Shape, just to switch it up a bit, or maybe the title of the eventual TV series. Maybe that's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't think you could just call the movie The Shape, even though that's what I called my sequel concept idea. I think you would have to call it Halloween The Shape or something to that degree, just because of the brand identity that surrounds it and the marketing. Now, I mean, it would be clear that if you were to see The Shape, because again, studios want to market to their demographic, but they also want to have to the best of their abilities. And it is a project by project basis. Some projects you're going to get more of it, and some projects you won't. But certainly they want to appeal to not just their hardcore Halloween fan base. They want to have more of a broader appeal. If we saw a movie and a poster, or if we saw, a poster that said The Shape with, Michael's mask on it, I mean, we would know. But the average person, believe it or not, folks, believe it or not, there's a world out there beyond Halloween. I'm just saying. The average person wouldn't. So you would want to still use that brand identity. But I've always liked the name The Shape for a Halloween film. Tony Movie Chappie D9 Neil Blomkamp number only fan. Woo! Says, hey, how do you feel about Lee not being in the group with Cody, Brian, CP anymore with this whole incident with him and CP? I don't know anything about it. To be honest with you, I heard that there was a falling out, which of course was made public, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know the details. I personally have no issues with Lee. I have no issues with Cody or CP. CP I've never talked to. Brian, I don't know who Brian is, but I'm sure he's a nice guy. So I don't know. I don't really have any. I don't have any say. I'll just say that whatever the issue was, I hope it gets resolved and cooler heads prevail, and maybe somewhere down the line, maybe they will patch things up and make up. I mean, I'm aware there was a falling out, but I have no idea. I don't know any of the details. I have no idea what it was, really, in all honesty. Steve Johnson sent, oh, I read that already. I already read that. Super chat comes in from Vanderhoff's. Vanderhoff66FU says, hey, Dave, will Mike Godfrey be back? Mike Godfrey might be back. He might be back. I don't know. Well, Mike Godfrey, he went out drinking with Mike Godfrey. I mean, maybe he'll be back. Why not? Let's get Mike Godfrey in there. Who the hell knows? All right. Jason Meyer says, and there is no Halloween TV show in the works at all, but there is a Chucky TV show coming from Sci-Fi. Did you say something else, Jason? You began your sentence with and I didn't know if there was something else I missed. Yes, that is true. There is a TV show in the works from Sci-Fi, and I don't know what it's going to be like, but I don't think we will see a sequel to the Child's Play movie that came out last year. I don't think we will. I don't think it was good enough, and I don't think the box office result. It was fine. It was fine. I enjoyed it, but it certainly I don't think it warrants a sequel. I don't think we'll make a sequel. I think Chucky will live now on Sci-Fi. So I'm sure Don Mancini is very happy that the movie didn't do well. Now, he's not going to say that publicly, but I'm sure he's like, come on. Tiffany Moses Shante says, hey, Dave, are you and Cody Leach still going to collaborate? Yes. Yes, Cody, if you're watching, I would still love to collaborate with you. It's just Cody's a busy dude. I'm a busy dude. It's hard to try and coordinate all our schedules. But yes, I'm totally down for that. Love Cody. Smiths Grove says, I believe they are filming the Chucky series in Canada, eh? Are they? They might be. If they are, it's probably, I don't know if, I'll have to ask Bruce, my buddy Bruce, if Chucky's gone through White's or not. White's is the company that my buddy Bruce works for. He's the national manager of education and training at White's, and White's, which is short for William F. White International. For those of you that may not know, it is the largest distributor for motion picture, television, and theatrical lighting and grip, and now camera gear, actually, in Canada. So when Hollywood comes up to Canada to shoot, which they, as you've heard me say, they do a lot, obviously, Vancouver and Toronto being, sometimes they go like this back and forth, but being the third largest film and TV production centers in North America, behind only LA and New York. Atlanta's up there too. They will rent their gear, lighting and grip gear, from White's. Now, there are other competitors in Canada as well, but they are the largest. So I'll have to check with Bruce to see if they're using White's or not. He'll be able to tell me. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they're shooting in Toronto. If they're shooting up here, they're probably. I haven't heard anything. Usually, I get a good buzz when things come up here to shoot, especially something like that. They shot It up here, though. It's Chapter 1 and 2 were shot up here. Remember the beginning of It Chapter 2 when Eddie is in his. I think it's Eddie, right? He's an adult and he's in the car and he's driving downtown, and it's supposed to be New York. Yeah, no, that was downtown Toronto. WJ Corsi says, if Halloween goes the anthology route and includes Charlie Bowles, what ways would you make him different from Michael Myers? That's a good question, WJ. Well, I think Charlie Bowles right off the bat is not somebody who's catatonic. I don't think he's somebody who's doesn't say anything or is, this cold, I don't think he's somebody that wears a mask. I think he's more of a your standard modern serial killer. I don't think there's anything necessarily supernatural about him or having a slight supernatural edge. I think he would be more traditional. And I think that alone but that doesn't mean that he's not conniving, cunning, manipulative. Maybe he's got a bit of that, manipulative Manson in him, crossed with a Jeffrey Dahmer, crossed with, do you know what I mean? Like he's not Michael Myers Jason. He's more traditional, but downright frightening, scary, maybe hard to pin down, hard to find, that kind of thing. That alone would differentiate him. And then you go into the mythology and the backstory of who he is, what he looks like, what his choices of, weapons are, or to kill, or whatever it is. Hacksaw, I guess, would be his choice of weapon, right? It'd be interesting. Be very cool. Great question. Thank you, WJ. Let me see here. Jason Wiley says, Dave, how about a Halloween spoof starring William Shatner as Dr. Loomis and actor Michael Myers as Mike Myers? Yes. I'm down. Nick P. was here, says, Dave McRae, a lot of filming done over the years in the Toronto area. Toronto is known as Hollywood North. It shares that title now with Vancouver. They shoot things in Vancouver all the time now too, because of its close proximity to Los Angeles. So rather than going if you're in Los Angeles here, rather than going all the way up here into LA, or into Toronto, you could just go up here into Vancouver. But Toronto is still huge. We have Pinewood Toronto Studios, which house some of the biggest sound stages in North America. I think Star Trek Discovery is shot up here. It Chapter 2 was shot up here. Shape of Water was shot up here. Tons of shit. Tons of stuff is shot up here. Suicide Squad was shot up here. Remember the scene in Suicide Squad when Batman was on top of the Joker's car and he was driving downtown? That was downtown Toronto. I was down there because I knew a PA that was working on it, and he got me onto the set. So that was cool. Right down. Yeah, they shoot stuff. It's rarely said it's Toronto because Toronto is one of those cities that if you don't show the CN Tower, it's big enough with all of the skyscrapers and the hustle and bustle and the people and all that kinds of stuff. It's a big enough city. It's the fourth largest in North America. That depending on where you shoot and the angles you shoot, you can say you're in Chicago or New York and people would believe you. You know what I mean? There's certain things you can't show, obviously, that are distinctly Canadian, but yeah, so it's they shoot up here all the time, man. It's fun place to be I will be often walking downtown to my next VO gig or something, and I'll turn a corner and all of a sudden I'll see all these white trailers lined up across the street with the pylons, and I'll be like, they're shooting something. Something's going down. Jason Meyer says they filmed all the CW Arrowverse shows there, and they filmed Friday the 13th Part 8 there too, right? Friday the 13th Part 8. Oh, Jason Takes Manhattan. Some of that might have been shot here. Yeah, I'll have to double check if that's true. Some of that might have been shot here. No, I believe it was Vancouver. I think it was Vancouver. I think Friday the 13th Part 8 was shot in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Vancouver, not Toronto. Vancouver's a big city too. The Film Addict sends a super chat, says, streams, channels like this is helping me during this dark time for me. Someone cheated on me and I'm trying to overcome the dark period of time. I'm taking baby steps to recover. Keep on rocking, man. Well, listen, man, just, take each day as it comes. Take a breath each day. That's all you got to do. Just each day, right? Each passing day, there's always tomorrow. And I'm really glad that these shows can help you in that way. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Just stay strong, man. Stay strong, buddy. Stay strong. We're here for you. Let's see here. Frank Riker says, Frank sends another super chat. Thank you, Frank. Says, Dave, Donald Pleasant's ghost visited me in a dream and said Halloween will start again with Halloween Begins. Michael is cloned and joins the Expendables. Yes! Oh my God, that deserves. Yes, another one. One more, Frank. Yeah, I love it.
Fuck you, man. Come on.
I love that shit. Yes, that is what it should be. Can you imagine Michael Myers joining the Expendables? I think that would be awesome. I'm all for it. I'm down, man. I'm down. Let's see here. Frank Riker sends a super chat. Message was retracted. Oh, okay. Well, he supported the channel. Frank is amazing. Let me see here. Striker87 says, hey, Dave, you should try to get into Halloween Ends as a newcaster or radio. I should try. Hey, listen, if Blumhouse if they want me in listen, I've always said this. If the fine folks over at Blumhouse, and I mean that genuinely. I mean, I sometimes give these movies a hard time, but it's because I love Halloween. It's because I'm a fan. I give them a hard time because I care. Yes, I like to be theatrical and sensational, and it's part of who I am. I mean, I'm an actor. I'm a performer, right? I like doing that. It's who I am. But at the end of the day, it's because I really care. But I've often joked that if Blumhouse knows about me and they wanted me in a Halloween film, they would just want to kill me to death. They'd be like, let's get that fucking weasel McRae from Toronto in here. You know that fucking weasel up north? Let's get him in the movie and let's slaughter the shit out of him. To make a point, right? They would step on my face would explode, my head would explode, Michael would be like jabbing me with so fucking thing and guts would be flying out. I'd be like, ah. They'd be like, wow, feels like it's a crime of passion here. This feels really personal. But in all seriousness, that is kind of serious. I think that's what they might want to do to me. But listen, hey, if they ever approached me and said, Dave, we think you're funny and fun and whatever, we'd love to get you in this as a small cap. Of course I'd do it. I didn't care what it was. I could be walking down the street going, some strange weird guy in the town. I'm like, I'm there, man. Let's do it. Like, what is that? I don't know. He's some weird guy in the background. Let's get kind of weird. Whatever they want me to do. I don't know. Hop on one foot in the background with a sign that says, I love Halloween. I'll do it. I'll do it. Aaron White. The show Criminal Minds deals with serial killers, also known as slashers. Would you consider it a horror show? I don't think so. No. I mean, look, there's the genre of horror, and then there's all the different subgenres that are related to horror. Things can have horror elements, but you got to look at what the dominant sort of blanket identity of the show is. It's not a horror show, right? Criminal Minds it's a criminal crime show. You know what I mean? It's and sometimes episodes will deal with serial killers and horrific things, but it's not a horror show per se, right? It's like the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix isn't a horror movie. It's not a horror movie. And as I've said many times on this channel, it's not a comic book movie. I mean, it's a comic book movie for all intents and purposes because it's using the Joker character as the archetype to drive this story. And of course, Gotham, and you see Thomas Wayne. Okay. But it's a psychological thriller. It's a psychological thriller drama. That's what it is. Take out the Joker and take out a few of the things that tell you it's in the world of Batman, and that could be a story about you or I, about anybody. So it's not. So it's not. It's got horror, some horrific elements, but it's more of a psychological thriller, which is a subgenre of the big, larger picture of horror. So I wouldn't. But you have to look at what the prominent identity of the show is. And I wouldn't say it's a horror show, but that's me. That's me. Super chat comes in from Chris Baber to the channel. Thank you, Chris. Rock on, my man. David Quintanilla sends in a super chat. Thank you, Dave. Says, Halloween, White House down. Michael targets the First Lady. Halloween, White House down. Michael targets the First Lady, and not the U.S. Army, not the Secret Service, not even the Donald. The Donald, I like that. For a minute, I thought you were talking about Donald Pleasance, but you're talking about the Donald. Excuse me, I will stop him, okay? Michael is no match for me. He's just no match. He's no match for me. I will take him down in the biggest, the best. I have the biggest gun, the best gun. I will shoot him in the face. Halloween, White House down. Michael targets the First Lady, and not the U.S. Army, not the Secret Service, and not even the Donald can stop him. It was the boogeyman. As a matter of fact, it was. It was the boogeyman. It was. Thank you for the super chat, David. You rock, man. That would be quite an interesting movie. For sure. Michael Dean says, Dave, in the beginning of Halloween 4, the security guard says that Michael murdered 16 people on Halloween night, but he really only killed 14 in the first 2 movies. Did you know that? Well, I haven't thought about this in a long time. I would have to go back. I will take your word for it for now. But I would have to go back and take a look. I know at one time when I was younger, maybe in my teens, I remember going back and figuring out whether that guy was actually right. And I can't remember whether I figured out that he was right or if he was off by a couple. I'm not sure, but I will definitely take your word for it for now. And then I'd have to go off the top of my head. I'd have to go through all of them and it would take a little bit. But definitely interesting. I'll have to look into that. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, Dave, imagine Donald Trump as Loomis. Can you imagine? I met him 15 years ago, okay? I told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. Okay, I am the best. But you let him out. I didn't let him out. You let him out. I didn't. You let him out. You let him out. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how funny that would be? Let me see. I didn't let him out. You let him out. I didn't. Bryce Russo says, hi, Dave. Hope all is well. I'm a huge fan of your channel and content. Keep up the great work on YouTube. Thank you, Bryce. Really appreciate that nice compliment, man. Gary Orangel says, Dave, Sartain wasn't bad, but what did he mean when he said people wanted to kill Michael for crimes they observed to Allison blaming citizens of Haddonfield? Let me see. But what did he mean when he said people wanted to kill Michael for the crimes they observed to Allison blaming citizens of Haddonfield. Gary, can you restructure that sentence again? I'm just a little confused on people wanted to kill Michael for the crimes they observed to Allison blaming citizens of Haddonfield. No, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I think that's true. I think there are the residual effects. It's the residual effects that this happened. I mean, we don't know. See, that's part of the exploratory sort of realm that Halloween 2018 didn't really go into. We know the residual effects of how it affected Laurie Strode. We get bits and pieces of how that affected her direct family. We sort of get nuggets or a nugget here or there of the town that, because Allison says, no, wasn't Michael your Laurie's brother and blah, blah, blah. No, that's just something people made up. It was a throwaway line is what it was. It was it was in the purest definition of the word. It was a throwaway line. It was in there for no other reason, not to drive any sort of nugget forward that might be interesting to find out, oh, how did they come to that conclusion? Why did they think they were brother and sister? Right? Why did they think we know why we thought they were brother and sister, right? Because we see it in the exposition of the movie. But Laurie in Halloween 2 doesn't find out that she's his sister. The audience finds out. We know that Loomis knows because Marion told her in the back of the marshal's car. But at no point do we ever see Loomis telling Laurie that. I'm not saying we should have. I'm not saying we should have. I'm just saying we didn't see that. So it's assumed, I guess, and Loomis dies in the fire. So later on in life, but then Halloween 2 doesn't exist. So Loomis then, because Halloween 2 doesn't exist, when you just watch Halloween 1, why would anybody make that up? If Halloween 2 doesn't exist, that was never introduced into the movie, into this new timeline. Halloween 2 doesn't exist. In Halloween 1, because it was supposed to be a standoff movie, and Laurie was not Michael's sister, Michael was not Laurie's brother, he became enamored with Laurie because Laurie, no doubt, reminded him on some sort of sexual, subconscious level about his sister, Judith, and there was an infatuation, and he became enamored, but it wasn't personal in the sense that, I have a history with this person, so that's why there was no motive per se. It was just this instinctual infatuation. And there was no introduction to it was never mentioned, because why would it be mentioned? Because that wasn't it. So it was a throwaway line. It was just for the fans. No, that's just something people made up. But I want to know, well, why did people make it up? Why? Why did they think this, right? So going back to your question, which was, I'm going off on a tangent here, which was, where's your question here? Jesus, I lost the question. Where did it go? Can't find it now. It's before that. It was after that. Let's see. Mark Johnson. There we go. Gary. Sorry, Gary. I was looking for your thing. I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's left to assume that when Sartain says that people wanted to kill Michael for the crimes they observed, that makes sense to me, because what he means by that is that they were angry that, they're a sleepy little town. And he killed his sister in 1963. Then he comes back and he murders innocent teenagers. The town, this small, close-lit town where everybody presumably knows everybody. Yeah, I would be pissed too. It's not a big city. Haddonfield's, what? I don't think we ever really know the population. Again, going by based on the first movie alone, All the other sequels don't exist. We cannot draw from that. We have to draw from the first movie alone. I get the impression from Halloween 1978 that it is this, a town of maybe 10,000 people maybe? Maybe 15? 20 tops? It's a relatively small town, right? I don't think it's a village of 200 people, or 2,000 people. I think it's got a high school, right? It's probably 15,000 maybe, something like that, 20,000 maybe. Small town. That's a relatively small town, right? It's not a small town where literally everybody knows everybody, but it's a small enough town that you get to know people. Maybe it's 10,000, whatever it is. So yeah, people will be pissed off. I can see people being absolutely pissed off. And then when you go back to your question here where it says crimes, what do they mean to people that wanted to kill Michael for the crimes they observed? Yeah, I think I think what they mean by the crimes they observed was the crime, not the observation of the actual crimes taking place, but the crimes, knowing that the crimes happened, seeing it in the newspapers, hearing it on the radio, watching it on the television, entering the pop culture, being maybe Haddonfield is now known, for these crimes. And then he's back and he's murdering all these people again in 2018. Fuck. Haddonfield is just known as that kind of town. I'd be pissed too. And then Allison blaming the citizens of Haddonfield might just be something like, not letting go, not accepting what happened and doing their best to move on might have in some sort of ironic way led to fueled more anger and more hatred and more skepticism throughout the town. Skepticism of your average Joe. Could it happen again? Are you a killer? But Halloween 2018 never explored that. That I find really interesting because it taps into the psychological makeup of the town and how the town, and maybe they're going to do that in this movie. I mean, we definitely know we're going to get insight into the residual effects of the Tommy character and Lindsay and Marion and Brackett and Lonnie. But I hope it also gives us insight into how the town coped. What did the town do? What is the town like now? That's interesting. Good question. Very good question, Gary. Jack Ellis sends in a super chat and says, Anti-Logic says Halloween shouldn't be considered a horror movie. Thoughts? Do you think they should have kept the lore of H2 and H18 and retcon the brother-sister twist? Okay, the first part of your question is, in 1978, it was definitely a horror film. I understand why it's considered part of the slasher subgenre, because usually a slasher film is identified, and of course this has evolved over the years, but usually the crux of a slasher film is you have a killer chasing and murdering teenagers. And that alone sort of and Halloween was one of the first to introduce that concept and that idea. Teenagers. You could say the first, actually, because Black Christmas obviously was college, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was I think they were older than that as well. But that idea, which propelled the 80s slasher subgenre, that is why Halloween is considered a slasher, and also because of its subsequent sequels, where Halloween, even Halloween 2 from 1981, the very next film, is a definite slasher movie in the traditional sense of what we know. And of course, once you get to 4 and 5 and 6 and H2, so that's why it's almost slasher by default, But when you look at the first Halloween film on its own, it's slasher in the sense that it's got that crux of killer murdering teenagers, but it's really, at the end of the day, a psychological mystery ghost story. That's what it is. Michael is very ghost-like, it's that ghost, creepy campfire, Hitchcockian, I've often said it's like a 90-minute Twilight Zone episode, because it is a standalone movie. It does have a beginning, middle, and an end, and it does, when she says it was the boogeyman, and Dr. Loomis says, as a matter of fact, it was. And that is what she's saying. It was the boogeyman. the it gets lost in her breath, but that is what she's saying. It's in the actual script. It was confirmed by Carpenter and Curtis. It was the boogeyman. It was the boogeyman. It was the boogeyman. It was the boogeyman. Dr. Loomis says, as a matter of fact, it was. It's bringing it full circle. It was, oh my God, right? It's a psychological, it's 70s, it's dated in terms of what we perceive as psychological thrillers nowadays, but it was for its time very much like that. It's a creepy ghost story, about this mental patient that escapes. It's very theater of the mind, It's its subsequent sequels that are very slasher, and then of course, obviously, you have to. Well, it's Halloween. It's the first one. It's it's a slasher movie. But you're right in the sense that it's not really a slasher movie. Even you could even say Psycho is more slasher. Ironically, because Psycho, when you get to the shower scene in Psycho, although you're not seeing the knife enter the flesh, it's more Psycho in some ways. Is more gratuitous. Because when you think of the kills in Halloween, although the first to be fair, the first kill in Halloween, Judith's kill in Halloween, is arguably the most violent. And you don't see anything. But the power of suggestion that's going on in that scene with her screams and seeing the knife come down is very, very strong. That's very Psycho-esque. That's probably the most slasher, typical, traditional slasher element of that movie. But when you think of how Annie was killed, and you think about how Linda was killed, both of them strangled. And then when you think of how Bob was killed, also strangled, and then a knife into the chest. It's not like you're seeing blood come down or you're stabbing him like this. It's just to pin him to the wall. And we don't see the mechanic killed. We just see him lying in the bushes. They're very tame, but it's the psychological power of it's the buildup that leads up. It's the suspense, the mood, the atmosphere, getting into the psyche of the viewer, right? That impending ominous doom that Halloween has, and then there's the kill. But the kill isn't, the kill's the payoff, but the kill's not necessarily the coolest part. It's the lurking and the there and not there and the shadows. It's more psychological than it is slasher. And so I think you're right on that. Do I think Halloween 2 should have, I think it's a catch-22. I understand why they did it, because you have to justify Michael being alive, having been burned to death and shot in the eyes. He was shot in both eyes. So you have to justify that somehow. And I just think I think it was too problematic. I think it became too problematic to try and justify that. But at the same time, you lose out on the massacre that happened. And if you really want to paint Haddonfield as this sort of town that's, got some issues, and if you really want to paint Laurie as a basket case who suffered from major PTSD, but I am the first to say that, just because Halloween 2 does not exist and all those things that she went through does not exist, doesn't mean that the character would not have gone through a lot. But certainly if those events actually happened, it only helps to justify where the character of Laurie is in Halloween 2018. You remove that, but it's a catch. I think they made the best choice. Considering the circumstances, I think they made the best choice. Super chat comes in from Chris Baber. Where are we here? Chris sends a super chat and says, thank you, Chris. Says, if you could pick a throwback character, fan service, obviously, from any previous Halloween film, who would it be and why? If I could pick a throwback character for nothing more than fan service, who would it be and why? From any of the movies, like, it doesn't matter. I guess, it doesn't matter if it's, I think if I could, it would, I think the logical choice would be Danielle Harris. But if I don't care about continuity and I don't care if it makes sense and I don't care if it's the right thing to do, it probably would be her. Yeah. But I wouldn't do it because it doesn't make any sense. But I think she's the most logical. Or you bring back probably, bring back, I don't know. I don't care enough. I don't know. For nothing more than fan service. Bring back Bob. Bob is back. How did he survive? He survived. What happened is that he was rendered unconscious, and when Michael stabbed him, pinning him to the door, and he's hanging there on the door, he was just unconscious. He wasn't dead. He was just unconscious. And nobody knew about this for 40 years. Oh, my man. Albert Hodginson's. Oh, he's talking to Bryce. Awesome. Awesome to see you guys talking to each other as well. Christian Kyle says they added a death for H4 that supposedly happened in the night H1 and H2 took place. Earl Ford says Myers killed his son 10 years ago. Interesting. I did not. I'll have to go back and watch Halloween 4. Fascinating. Woo Hollywood Celebrity says, Dave, go check out Halloween Resurrection alternative opening scene. Do you think they should play that Mr. Sandman song on Halloween Kills? No, I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the song Mr. Sandman finds its way into these next two movies somewhere, but I don't think they're going to open with it. I don't think so. Super chat from Frank Riker says, imagine if Nurse Marion brings out a file in Kills showing Laurie that Michael and her are siblings and Loomis had it hidden. You could do that. You totally could do that. Yep, you totally could do it. I hope they don't, but you totally could do it. Super chat comes in podcast 1919. Thank you, buddy. Says the population of Haddonfield in film says it's 12,500. In what film? In the original Halloween? Is there a in the original Halloween, I know there's a sign that says Haddonfield such and such miles away. Is there a sign in the original, remember the original Halloween now, that says population 12,500? I know you could go to, Wikipedia and Fanpedia and Fandompedia and all this stuff, but if it's not in the film or it's not in the script, then that means that it maybe was in the book, which isn't officially canon, by the way. There's things in there that's not officially canon. Let me know. Let me know where that is, because there's a lot of mythology that's created after the fact that isn't necessarily canon. So let me know where that sign is. Unless I'm drawing a major brain fart and it is in the movie and I don't remember. Edwin A. Sordo says, what's good, Mr. McRae? What's good? Can you do a Michael Myers dance video similar to the one you did in Friday the 13th Part 3? Maybe. I might do it. Why not? Why not do it? Maybe that's something I'll do. That'd be a lot of fun to do. Josh Kephart says, hey, Dave, is Wham coming on tonight? Is Wham coming on tonight? What's tonight? Is something happening tonight? What's going on tonight? I have no idea. I'm not doing a show tonight. So no, Wham's not coming on my channel tonight. But Wham is, but we are looking to get Wham on next week. George Michael. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, would you laugh if you saw Busta Rhymes cameo in any of the next two X movies? Yes, I would. Carlos Middleton says, so the question is, why would or should they want to stray away from the original concept? So the question is, why would or should they want to stray away from the original concept? Can you elaborate, Carlos? I'm not quite sure what you're referring to there. All right, just a few more moments here. Make sure I got the super chats. The boogeyman is coming. Looks like sends in a super chat. Just came in right now. Thank you for the super chat. Boogeyman says, let me see here. Does what you're hearing about Halloween Kills bother you? The high body count, the really fast pace, the Halloween on speed quotes? No, I mean, they're not necessarily. I have to see the movie first, because I have to see the movie and figure out whether it feels genuine. Because you see, here's the thing, is that where a lot of the Halloween-y 1978 things should have taken place was in Halloween 2018. I've often said that Halloween 2018 is a very, very good modern day horror slasher film. I just don't think it's a very good Halloween film. Now, there are moments in there where I'm like, that's really cool. That's really well done. what they did do well, they did really well, which makes what they didn't do well, in my estimation, that much more frustrating. And I'm not here knocking them. I'm not knocking them, man. Making movies is tough. If anybody from Blumhouse or Universal or the crew or the cat watch me, I'm not coming down on you. I mean, I talk, this way because I care, right? And making movies is tough, man. It's tough. Fucking hard. It's really, really hard. Making movies is fucking hard. But I'm going to give my thoughts. And there were creative decisions that were made that I just did not agree with. Peanut butter on my penis, some of the comedy, some of the characters that I just think were unnecessary. Some of the utilization of the shape was like, oh, you did it well there, but why are you doing it like that there? But now they're making a direct sequel to their own movie. So I expect them to honor what they've already started. I expect it. I expect to see more of this and that. That doesn't mean that they're not going to throw some things in there that are like, okay, I see what you did there. Okay, cool. But I think the expectations now, he's no longer making a sequel to Carpenter's movie. David Gordon Green is now making a sequel to his own movie. Now, you still have to honor the original film, especially in the flashbacks. But I guess I just sort of feel that it is what it is now. And I just go in and I hope, I expect that, I understand that they have to appeal to a certain demographic. I understand that it's going to be high octane and intense. And yeah, will there be some creative decisions that they make that I will probably have issues with? Sure. But I think I will be able to, I have this feeling I'll be able to enjoy the movie more for what it is because of that now. That doesn't mean I'm going to think it's an A+ movie, but I think I just have this feeling I'm probably going to have a better time with it. But we'll see. There's always, it is, my expectation for them honoring, certain creative character decisions that I think are important. I think I just don't have that expectation anymore. I think they will do it to a degree because they did do it to a degree in the 2018 film. They did. Like I said, there were moments where I was like, that's really nice. I like that. It's overall, I thought it just missed the mark for me as a direct sequel to the original film. I'm really looking forward to what they're going to do with Halloween Kills. I want them to succeed. I don't want people to fail because making movies is fucking hard. Super chat also comes in from... Oh, did I miss a super chat here? The Boogeyman is coming. Why is that one still up? Maybe I didn't. Yeah, Intel Wild, but it's not showing up. That's so strange. Let me see if it shows up here. Dun 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 dun. Here it is. Super chat from Intel Wild says, "How about Don't Fear the Reaper playing in the background at some point in Halloween Kills?" Dude, I would be okay with that. I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with maybe ending the entire series with that song. Ending the entire series with that song. That would be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool in the end credit. Maybe. I got to see. It depends on how they're going to end it, though, right? It all depends on how they're going to end it. Okay, a couple more here. Let me see. Brandon Treat says, here's my super chat. Thank you for being a great YouTuber. That's your super chat? That's not a super chat, man. But that's okay. You don't have to send in a super chat. Did you send in a super chat earlier that I missed, Brandon? Let me see. I don't see your name here, man. Unless you're being facetious and you're being funny, which I think is actually really funny. But that's not a super chat. But I'll take the question anyway, man. I'll take the question anyway. Let me see here. Brandon, you said, where are you? Oh, there it is. Oh, I see. You asked the question and then you sent in I got you. Cool. You ask, thank you for being a great YouTuber. And if you have a TV show, it should be called The Dave McRae Show. The Dave McRae Show. If I had a TV show, yeah, I'd be down for calling it The Dave McRae Show. Everything Dave McRae. And thank you for supporting the channel, Brandon. I really appreciate it. Okay, folks, that is going to do it for me here on episode 19 of McRae Live. You guys are amazing. Thank you to each and every one of you who sent in those super chats. I really appreciate it. For all the questions that were not super chats, I appreciate them as well. If I did not answer your question, I didn't get to it. Again, you guys know me. It's not personal. I appreciate all of them. It's just there's so many people in the chat. We had nearly 300 people watching this afternoon, which is no surprise being Halloween all Q&A. And of course, I like to be thorough with my answers. And of course, because I think you guys deserve that. You ask a question, you guys deserve that. So I appreciate everybody who tuned in, all the super chats, the non-super chats. I just appreciate you guys tuning in. I will be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 20 of McRae Live. We're already up to 20 episodes. That is insane, folks. Absolutely insane. I can't believe we're at 20 episodes already tomorrow. But yeah, that is going to do it for me. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemcrae. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time when I'm not posting here. All my links are in the description to Facebook, Patreon, my official website, IMDb, Twitter, Instagram. It's all down there. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. All right. Have a great Thursday, guys. Have a great Thursday. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. All right. Cheers.